This is Titus Frost, spitting truth, causing glitches in the Matrix.
Cause we're living in a way that's so insane. Money taking up our days. Don't matter if you're poor or rich, we make for so much more than this. But it's a crazy world, crazy times. There's a lot fogging up our minds, but we ain't really got a need for this. I pray we all break free of this.
So at March Against Monsanto 2017, which is also March Against Bayer, on 20th May in Boston, Jill Stein, Dr. Jill Stein, presidential nominee, decided to show up, support the March Against Monsanto, and support the fight against GMOs. So for those things, we can certainly applaud her. And we're going to watch her speech first, and then I had a confrontation with her afterwards, which I have also incorporated into this. This can all be seen in the raw footage from the March Against Monsanto video I did. However, I wanted to separate it out so that people wouldn't have to dig through that entire video to find this. I also want to state this right at the beginning. I am not a Jill Stein supporter. I am not a member of the left-right fake paradigm. I am an anarcho-capitalist, and I'm just going to leave it at that.
And former presidential candidate for the Green Party. Jill Stein has been outspoken activist against Monsanto and one of the few voices telling us the truth about what this is really doing to us. So without further ado, I would like to give the stage to Dr. Jill Stein. Can we give her a hand?
It's Jill Stein! Hey, it's Jill Stein, everybody!
2020!
It's Jill Stein!
Thank you all so much. I feel so lucky to be here. I feel so lucky to be a part of the Boston resistance.
Yes!
Because we have a right. We have a right to healthy food. We have a right to a food system that puts people over profit, that puts our health over profit, that puts our democracy over profit, that puts our environment over profit. And it's up to us to make it happen, because we've had enough of Monsantos of the world running our food system into the ground and driving our democracy over the edge. So it really is all about us. You may have heard recently that glyphosate, the major ingredient, the major active ingredient in Roundup, glyphosate was just recently declared a probable carcinogen by the World Health Organization. And so what do you think they did about it? Well, it turns out you had then officials at the EPA colluding with Monsanto executives in order to block a review of glyphosate. So glyphosate is permitted now, basically using studies that are about 20 and 30 years old, which completely missed the mark about the toxicity of glyphosate. And we know that there is substantial evidence not only that glyphosate causes cancer, causes non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, but also causes a variety of other organ system disease and birth defects and so on. So this is really about our standing up and taking back our institutions of democracy so that they're running for us, they're not being run by Monsanto.
Woo! Yeah!
The real president. My president. My president.
Well, you know, the resistance is strong. The resistance is strong and it's going stronger. Part of that resistance is stopping the takeover of Monsanto, of our regulatory agencies, our health, and our food system. Because as you know, Monsanto is one of a handful of these major food corporations, multinational food corporations. There are about 3 or 4 of them that are in control of over half of the world's seed supplies. And what does that do? It displaces farmers, it causes incredible economic hardship, Over 250,000 farmers in India have committed suicide because they don't have a future, because these GMOs are extremely expensive. You have to keep buying them year after year. Monsanto has essentially put a patent on life itself and on seeds which are essential to food security and to a food economy and to food sovereignty. So this is just not a tenable system. The use of glyphosate has increased, not doubled, not tripled, not gone up 10 times, it's gone up 100 times fold over the last couple of decades. And that's what GMOs are. Are people familiar with GMOs and what they do basically? They're basically pesticide tolerant. And it's essentially a public relations scam that tells farmers that they need to buy these GMOs so that they can suppress weeds. But what does that do? That just then puts out huge amounts of these toxic pesticides into our water, into our air, and into our food. We now have detectable residues of glyphosate, not only in the crops, but then in the food products themselves. And if they tested us people, which they won't do, they would find that glyphosate has worked its way into our bodies as well. So this is a very dangerous situation. It was extremely outrageous. Just in March of this year, the efforts of Monsanto to suppress the science were revealed in the New York Times. There is a lawsuit going on by some of the victims of glyphosate. Some of the people who were exposed and got lymphoma, which is a very dangerous disease, they are suing in court because of the World Health Organization's decision that this is a carcinogen. And because of that lawsuit, the emails between Monsanto and the EPA were brought to light. And those emails basically showed that they have colluded in order to prevent the review of current science. Monsanto prevents the study of these things in the first place. You cannot get their seeds to do experiments and studies on in the first place. So there's the suppression of science going on all across the board here. And, you know, like we have the oil companies to thank for the suppression of climate science, we have the food giants to hold accountable for the suppression of food science. So we're here today to say we are not going away, we are not going to forget about this and go home. We are standing up and we're going forward. And it's important to recognize how much progress we've made because of the World Health Organization's ruling and because of the lawsuit that's now going forward. We are moving forward and we are going to stop this assault. We are going to halt the Monsanto assault, and we are going to stand up for the economy we deserve, for the food and the farming we deserve, and for the health we deserve, and ultimately for the democracy we deserve.
Right.
This is not something we can solve one issue at a time. As I'm sure you know, if you are a living, breathing, thinking person, you know that this is part of a global assault on our health care, on our jobs, on the privatization of our schools, on student debt. Anybody know what student debt is about out there?
Yeah.
This is another assault on everyday people by the 1%. This is why it's so important that we say no to the effort to divide us, because if we're divided, we're conquered. This is about our getting together to be a strong and unified force, because the minute we get together, we are an unstoppable force to create an America and a world that works for all of us. The power to create that world is not just in our hopes and dreams. It is right here, right now. It's in our hands. Let's go forward. Let's make it so. Let's keep working together. Thank you all for standing up to Monsanto.
Let's go!
Thank you, Jill. You just heard the rightful president of these United States, Jill Stein. She's my president.
So big props to Jill Stein for coming down and supporting the March Against Monsanto, and she said some very truthful things in her speech, and I was able to go up to her and ask her for an interview, and she very politely accepted the interview, and she was very nice to me during the interview and answered all of my questions. So it was very hard for me to get too confrontational with her when she was providing the answers, and the answers seemed somewhat legitimate. I disagree with her answer to the Hillary Clinton thing that I asked her at the very beginning, where in my opinion it was, that's why I asked her the way I did it, the recount was for Hillary Clinton, and she wasted a bunch of money on that and is still wasting money on that. However, she does make a good point about the manipulation of electronic voting machines, and that's a real thing that helped Barack Obama get elected in 2008 in Ohio. So we need accountability in the voting systems if we're going to have this tyrannical democracy that we live under. So if we ever want to make changes in society, we have to do it by voting with our dollars and voting at the booth. You can't just do voting at the booth. It's never going to work. However, big props to her for coming out, and huge props to her for the interview about the play. And, you know, she even thanks me at the end for being independent media, which not a lot of politicians are doing these days. So here's the interview. I hope you enjoy, and just remember, I'm not a supporter of hers. I don't support the left side at all. I'm an anarcho-capitalist, so I do not exist within the left-right paradigm. So throwing stuff at me like, oh, don't join the Green Party and all this, don't worry. I'm never going to join any political party, okay?
So I'm here with Jill Stein. Thank you very much for coming out today. This will be on the Titus Ross YouTube channel. Thank you just very much for your support on the GMOs and all those things. I just, as someone who was critical of the whole election thing, I had a question just I thought you could answer probably best is, why did you call for a recount for Hillary?
Oh, it wasn't a recount for Hillary, it's a recount for voters.
Okay. So it wasn't just for Hillary then?
No, by no means. In fact, the states that were chosen before the winners were even decided. In 2 out of those states, in Michigan and Wisconsin, the winners were not decided. These were the races that were extremely close, and they had red flags for, you know, for potential malfeasance, corruption, or just plain old machine error. But the point is that we've got a voting system that is wide open to corruption, to human and machine error, or to tampering. And it's really pretty incredible that it hasn't been fixed. We need security standards for this private infrastructure. It's run by private corporations. It's accountable to no one. It has never been examined. And that's what we're actually still in court to do, is to be able to examine the software here to make sure that it has not been tampered with, and to ensure that it can be made safe and secure. You know, we're living in the age of disbelief. You know, polls show that the American people do not buy and do not believe our government, our major institutions. Confidence in our election system is running at about 10%. That is 10% confidence. You know, is it any doubt that that people are so cynical and alienated? You know, support for the press is about 30%.
The prostitute?
Yes, the prostitute, exactly. That's right. So
I know one big question that
so just to finish, it's really important that we open up this system and put it to daylight. We would not allow a small business. We would not allow a sports game to go forward. You know, we have built-in quality assurance. We have instant replays in the case of sports. We have all kinds of accounting assurances to know that we can trust our financial institutions in our sports institutions. We deserve as much with our voting system.
Well, I mean, it's hard for us to trust the Federal Reserve financial system when it's a private institution that can't even be audited.
Funded the recount.
Absolutely.
And
also,
I think a big problem, at least a lot of the subscribers to my channel say about Congress, is the influence of AIPAC and Israel, and the fact that there's a documented plan to balkanize Syria called the Greater Plan for Israel, and it seems that's what's going on in the Middle East from a major viewpoint from a lot of people on the internet.
So let's just say that there's a lot going on behind closed doors in the Middle East, and that's why what we call for in the Middle East is actually an arms embargo to all parties, not another $100 billion weapons deal that Donald Trump has just gone to complete in Saudi Arabia. We need to be doing the opposite. We need to be bringing not only a ceasefire, but also a weapons embargo and a freeze on the funding and the bank accounts of those governments that are continuing to fund extremist groups. We should not be funding the government of Israel to the tune of $9 million a day to violate international law and commit war crimes. So there are solutions here. In the same way that the Federal Reserve needs accountability and transparency, it needs daylight, and it should not be serving a set of private banks for their profit. And those same basics of accountability and transparency need to be brought to our voting system as well. It should not be done with a technology that nobody knows anything about, that can be manipulated from behind closed doors, and that doesn't even have a paper trail. We need to get rid of the electronic voting machines. We need to ensure that we have automatic recounts and at least statistical audits, unless these are hand-counted paper ballots. So this is not rocket science. This is all about we the people getting together and insisting that we take our democracy back.
Yeah, have you considered the fact that Robert Mercer, one of the main funders for Trump, is an expert at manipulating algorithms in internet search results and has made a fortune in doing so?
In internet searches, did you say?
Yeah, he's very good at manipulating all that stuff. He's built a financial system that he uses and grabs data, and then they're able to invest based on algorithms that he's...
Absolutely. I think the issue of privacy, of not only surveillance, but of character assassination and of the collaboration that was exposed by Barrett Brown, who exposed the explicit collusion of the private security firms with not only the Department of Justice, but also with the big corporations. And he exposed, for example, a corporate plan to attack and to character assassinate Glenn Greenwald for the defense of Julian Assange, because what's going on there is the opposite of surveillance and behind the closed doors assaults on people who are speaking out and standing up for our civil rights and our human rights. So at the end of the day, it's all about our getting together. They want us divided and conquered into 1,000 separate issues. It's really important that we get together and fight this battle together. It's a battle for human rights, civil rights, our civil liberties, as well as for economic justice and for sustainability. We can't have one without the other. It's going to take all of that to get out of here alive. So keep up your good work.
Awesome.
Thanks for being
Thank you so much for taking the time.
Absolutely. Thank you for keeping the heat on.
Yeah, I know. That was great. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you so much.
Keep it up. Yeah.
Take care.
Ray McGovern said you can't find democracy in the Constitution.
You can't find it in the Constitution?
No.
Yeah, very interesting.
You know Ray McGovern, right?
I do know Ray McGovern.
Very smart fella.
He is a very smart fella. And it's true, the Constitution is full of holes that allow lots of room for an attack on our civil liberties and our democracy. We know the Constitution was written as a document really to safeguard landowners and white men. So,
how does it only defend white men?
Then, because it was only white men who had the right to vote in the Constitution originally, we had to amend the Constitution in order to get the right to vote for, you know, to liberate slaves. And,
yeah, but our vote, they wouldn't let you vote on something that mattered.
Yeah.
They would not let the people vote on things that matter.
It's a constant struggle. Keep it up. I'm sorry.
Because we have an interview coming up.
Who funded the recount?
Everyday people.
Monsanto swore at the 9
Yeah, over 100
actually hold on to the.
Alright, so that was the interview that I got to do with her, and it was very, very nice of her to do the interview with me. And then she got confronted by my buddy Shay Paxton there, who's at Shay Paxton. He also has a YouTube handle, same. And he asked her, you know, what she did with all the money and things like that for the recount, and who paid for the recount. So you can probably hear what she's saying to Shay there. I was trying to record the speech that was going on the stage at the same time, so it was like, you know, which one do I record here? So anyways, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. Please like, subscribe, and share. I'll be going to more protests in the near future. So this is Titus Frost, spitting truth, causing glitches in the Matrix.
Cause we're living in a way that's so insane. Money taking up our days. Don't matter if you're poor or rich, we make for so much more than this. But it's a crazy world, crazy times. There's a lot fogging up our minds, but we ain't really got a need for this. I pray we all break free of this.